And good day to you all. I thought I'd do something different today. We're going to have a go at installing and setting up just the basics of an Urban Terra 4 server. So it's a nice sunny Saturday morning. Coronavirus lockdown is starting to be relaxed, but here we are. I've got my cup of tea and we're ready to go. So we're going to go from the beginning. If there's any questions or anything I miss, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section and I shall address that for you. First things first, as always, because otherwise they wouldn't be first. Urban Terra website at urbanterra.info. So I've learned this new little trick so I can zoom in on certain things. urbanterra.info. Just in case you're watching on a small screen, makes it easier to see. While we're here, some nice new news coming on. Urban Terra 5 in development, but sticking with Urban Terra 4 for now. We're going for downloads. And there's a number of different ways to install. I'm only going to go through the Windows installation, not Linux. I don't have a Linux machine at the moment. You can follow through all of these instructions rather than watching this video, but just in case there's any bits you get stuck on, hopefully the video is here to help. So there are two options. You can either download the full game, 1.4 gigabytes, and just unzip it, or you can download the installer. That will install the game for you. It'll also keep it up to date if you launch from this. So today I'm going to use the installer 4.3. Just getting that downloading there. Here it goes. Urban Terra 4.3 zip. So that would be my downloads folder, but we'll just open it directly from there. So downloads Urban Terra zip. We will extract that. That can go in there. We'll delete those folders later. And it should show me the unzipped. So Urban Terra 4.3 updater. So that's where we're going to start. Give that a run. Yes, I'm happy for it to do that. Install to there. To change the installation path, click on cancel. So I don't want to install it into D downloads. Where I want to put it into is install. It doesn't matter, that's fine. It did install correctly. Where we're going to put that, so we're going to have a new folder called D, new folder URT server. So that's where it's going to go. And I've just got rid of that's there. Well, I can actually ping them to the side, can't I? I forgot I can do that. 4.3 updater, so that's where it's going to go. We'll move that there. Get rid of that because we don't need it anymore. And then run the updater from there. Obviously, if I'd have just downloaded the full zip file, it would have gone in the right place anyway, so that's where I want to install to. So read all this information carefully. Limited use software license agreement. Basically, you're not going to copy it, decompile it, sell it. Everything is owned by someone else. It's for your personal use only. We'll accept that. We're going to go for the latest release. Don't want an earlier version. The game engine, we're going to stick with the default engine. The other engine, there are some graphical differences, but I won't go into those for now. I've only got one local server, and it's going to have update automatically, although I'm not expecting any updates. So that's going to go off doing that. So while that's installing, shouldn't take too long. We're just going to have a look back on the Urban Terra website. So where we want to go to is the support pages now. So this is where we'll find all of the information on how to use and install Urban Terra itself, which obviously we're doing already. There's a full instruction manual down there, but we don't need that. Let's go back. So we're going to be server installing today. So we've got the server admin page there. Typically looking at Windows Server installation, so hopefully this should tell us what we're doing already. So the installer's downloading, that's on its way. We're not going into the default programs folder, but if you did install it to the default place, that's where it would be, C program files. The server we'll find will be, let's get this magic plus button again, magnifier, genius invention. So we're going to be looking for the Quake 3 URT dead, so that's for dedicated server. So this is in the shortcut. We're going to be setting some settings, so it tells it what port to use and the config file to use. So actually we don't need that for now. Oh god blimey, Golden Bennett, Windows key escape, that's what I wanted. Losing track of what I'm doing. My marbles have gone. Also we've got running a server. That's the installation going. About halfway there. What I might do, actually, to save you waiting around, we will pause the video just while we're waiting for that. Shouldn't be too long. I can grab a couple of mouthfuls of tea at the time, or check my Discord. Looks like someone's posted something. I'll just pause that, and I'll see you in a few moments. Okay, so it's downloaded. We're not going to play. Don't need to do that at the moment, so we can close that and jump into the game folder. So here we are. Don't need to look at any of those. We have the updater, we have the game if you want to play the game, and we have the dedicated server. Executable. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a shortcut on the desktop, so we can just right click and drag, create shortcut here, and we'll rename that. I don't like things called shortcut. You might just call it URT server, and just while I'm here, change icon. Yes, we want a different icon. We want to browse to URT server, and we're going to nick the icon from the standard executable. So I have that, apply that there. So we have our server. The other things we need to set up before we run that, we're going to have in here. So this is all the game files. So all of these PK3, they're basically zip files that contain all of the game contents, so the levels, the sounds, all of the images, and so on. Release notes. We're going to have a custom map, just to give you an example. So while we're in here, I'm going to create a folder called Downloads. Downloads. And in there, I've already downloaded from the Urban Terra website IS Arcade, which we will put in there. Just while we're at this point, I'll actually show you, if we go back on here, we can find, where was I looking at? Server admins, maps. Do you know, I had the link. I'm probably just being blind. Map cycle servers or game bots. Where did I find maps? Downloads. Downloads. I am being incredibly silly. Maps and levels, there we go. So in here there's a full list of websites which have maps you can download. The first one is one of the most comprehensive lists of maps I've ever seen, so there's all sorts of things in there. So if someone wants you to run a particular map, you can get it from there if they don't have it to send to you. Urban Zone have also got quite a few maps with descriptions. Anyway, so we don't need to worry about that. So we've been to our map downloads. We've downloaded a map. Let's get back to our support page for server installations. We've got our map in downloads. We've got our server example config. So we will open that. All of the instructions for this will be on the website under server default config. So yeah, it goes into, just explains everything in there, which is basically what we're looking at. Just more neatly laid out on the website, all the instructions. But what we're going to do, just for the basics, host name. So what are we going to call our server? So we'll call this server URT 4.3 YouTube. No, not YouTube. What do we call it? Tutorial. Tutorial server. That will do. Join message. Welcome to OpenTurbo 4.3. I'll leave it at that. Message of the day. We don't need to change any of that. There are, I won't go into setting up colours now, but you can actually put codes next to your letters to get coloured names, but that's a bit beyond what we need to do today. Admin, server administrator, so you can put in information, so when people look up on the server, who's the admin, so Discord, Neil Malinas, that's who I appear as on Discord. I like to just keep things formatted. I'm not going to put my contact email address in there. So authentication system, that's for people that are registered on the Urban Terror website. Notoriety, so as people play Urban Terror, or authorised people that have got a registered account, so you log in and it will tell you who you are. So for example, if you just come to the Urban Terror website normally, you'll just be on the generic page. When you actually become a member, so you can register to be a member, and then you get affiliated with the group. So just registered users, for example. So this is all the people that have registered, so they've got an auth account. So that means when they log into Urban Terror, it registers who they are, it records how long they've been playing, when they joined. They get their username showing up in game. So they actually get a notoriety, so you can get good or bad scores basically. I think mine's at about 50 at the moment. I think when I was new I was at about 10. So you can set this, so if people have got a bad so if they've been banned and things like that, they get a bad notoriety. You can set a minimum level to join. But again, that's getting a bit advanced for this. That will all be in the advanced server instructions. Clan tags, cheaters, so we don't need to worry about any of that for our standard stuff. So that can all just stay as default. The master server list, if you've got an old version of Urban Terror, some of these may be different. So Urban Master 1 doesn't exist anymore. There's a guy on Discord had one that said Barry's World, which was an old server hosting site that got shut down in probably 2001, I think. So don't need to worry about any of those. This can all stay standard. So remote connect password. So this is if you're running a server that's separate to the machine you're on, or you want to give your friends access to change things on the server, like cycle the maps, reload the maps, kick people as well. You can give them a password. So we might call this default one. What's the password? Password. Obviously I won't leave it at that, it's just again for the sake of example. Don't need to change any of those. It's looking a bit weird now because I'm just wrapping the text around. Downloading maps. If you're going to host your own custom maps, then you'll need to have a website with a fixed IP address that you can link to here. So I can't try to download. So if you've got a map in your Urban Terror folder, so we go set address for auto downloading, the client will try to download URT4 map name. So where I've put them in my downloads folder, if you've got a website you can forward, so if your computer's got a fixed IP address, you can have, as it says there, your site, your maps, you can actually forward that address to your Urban Terror downloads folder and share that for as read only onto the internet so people can download things, but that is also more advanced than what we're doing today. Pure server, that prevents people from running modified files, so I know sometimes you get cheaters who'll put custom skins on things to make them more visible, so we'll leave that as standard. Again, I don't think we actually need to change any of this. Don't need a password to access the game unless you're running a private server. Then you can just put a password in there and give that to your friends, otherwise it will be publicly accessible. Don't need to change any of the game settings. So game types, let's just separate this out a bit, make it a bit easier to read. Let's just comment that out so we can see it. So the game type as standard, this one is set to 7, which will be capture the flag. So you can default, so for example I might want to default this one as a free-for-all game. Obviously you can connect into the game later and change the game mode, but we're going to start in free-for-all as standard. If you want to put any notes in here for yourself just as reminders, you can by putting // the game will ignore it and it becomes a comment. So this is for Leon, don't use this. There we go. So it's just if I come in and read this later, I can leave myself a note that, oh yeah, that's something I need to change, or don't change, or whatever the case is. So we don't want to be jumping on the moon. If you want to jump higher, you can turn the gravity down, but we're not going to play with that. Again, that can all be changed remotely anyway if you want to play around with things later. Default time limit 20 minutes. Default settings, so friendly fire, At the moment you can kill your friends, you can set friendly fire to off, so if you've got a lot of new people playing that don't want to actually kill their own team, you can set that to off. Team kills, so if you've got friendly fire on and people jump in your game and keep killing you, obviously if they kill you 3 times they'll get kicked. And this is all things that we don't need to worry about for standard games. Respawn times, capture limits, again this is all advanced game settings, we don't need to set any of these. So what map to start with? So this is where when the server first loads or if it gets rebooted, what map's it going to start on. So I'm actually going to put come back. Yes. So the underscore in there. Yep, no, that's it. Beautiful. Okay, so that's where we're going to start. So that'll be our first map. So that's it. Your first map to start from. A couple of settings we changed, which I could have probably left as default just to get the server running. You don't need to put our remote connection passwords in or messages or anything like that. You could just leave all of this setting as default. But there we go, just been through a few things. So we'll save as, because we don't want it to be example. This is actually going to be our server config. So the example one is still there if we need to go back to default. If you ever get problems and mess everything up, just delete the config file and run the game, because it will automatically put back a default config. So I'm just going to, that's that done, the config's in there. We can have a map cycle. So this will, if you've got just say 3 or 4 maps and you want to go through them rather than running all the maps, we could have, so I'm just going to have a map cycle of 2, so we'll go that and then back to the first map, which would be UT4 underscore. Obviously it's going to run that when it starts up anyway, so then it will go into Turnpike, Casa and then back, and it will loop through that, and again we'll do a save as. We'll just call it map cycle because that's what the game will be looking for. Save that. So that's virtually ready to run. What I'm just going to do now is back to support servers, and we're just going to set up the shortcut. Then we'll pause the video, grab another cup of tea and get ready for the second part of the setup. Running a server, that's where it was. So it will actually default to UT4 game type. Actually, the only thing we need is to run the server config. That's because I'm looking at the old version of Quake. If you've actually got Quake 3 and you're running Urban Terror as an add-on, that's what you use. If you've just downloaded the standard Urban Terror, which just has got the Quake engine inbuilt, you're not actually running on the Quake 3 game. Unless you downloaded years ago and you had Quake 3, chances are you'll be running the standard IO Urban Terror, so we only need the execute server config. So edit the server config, we've done that, and the map cycle text, we've done that in that folder, so that's all done. We will now right click on there into properties. So at the end of target, space execute server config. So just in case you can't see that, I actually lowered my screen resolution to make the video a bit bigger for people on small screens, but that's what so we just added this execute server config. You will find if any of your folder path has got a space in it. So if I called it URT space server, you have to put things in quotes. Otherwise it won't work, because a space it will find as a gap and think the next bit is an instruction. So I always try to keep my file paths without spaces, then I don't have to remember to put quotations in. So we're going to apply that. Okay, so we're now ready to run the server. Almost. So let's just pause the video there, and I'll see you again in a couple of minutes. You still there? Great. Yeah, got an I2 of 6,000 and still nobody listened to me. We were at just about to, so the server is ready to launch. But before anyone can see it, we need to put some exceptions in our firewall. So we need to log into our router. So with British Telecom, BT, obviously you'll have a similar setup, usually under advanced settings. We will have port forwarding, which is what we want. What's my password? Let's try that one. Yeah, okay. So we need to enter the IP address of our computer. With this particular one, it will actually show me the address of all the computers on the network. But what you can do, if you do start run, or in my case Windows key and R, we want to look in command CMD. You see it down there. Let's do my zoom in a bit again. So we're going to go in command. Okay. Don't know if you can see that magnifying, but so let's get it out of the way. Where's my command box gone? Lost it. Run. Command. There it is. So we're going to go IP config /or. So that will then give me all of the IP addresses of everything on the network. So my computer, I'm currently running at 192.168.1.225. There, so that's the IP address of this computer. Ideally it wants to be static, otherwise it might get changed and then the server will get lost for the port forwarding. But anyway, so we want to create a new port forwarding rule. Rule name would be, we'll call it URT server, and call it whatever you want. Bob's Garage, and select device. So in this case I've got my laptop and it's got .225. We'll set that one so I can show IP address or show the device name. And the port numbers we want are 27960, and we want to range, so just in case one of the ports in use, we'll use the next one, so we could have 27963, just give it a couple. If you're running more than one server, when one server is running, it will automatically use the next port. So that'll be the same again, 27960, 27961. Oh, 3. So basically what that's doing is when someone on the internet tries to connect to our server, it will get to the router and it's trying to go through this port number, so that's like a door number, but the router will block that, saying hang on, I don't want anyone from the internet trying to get into our network because it's a security issue. Because we know what this is, we'll say yep, we can let that through, but we want to point any communications that's coming through that doorway to this computer, and this computer will then pick up that, and it knows it's for the Urban Terror server. and the protocols, do both there, and we'll save that. Now just to check, we'll have a quick look back on the server website. I don't know if it actually says anything about here on port forwarding. Just going to have a quick flick through. Oh yeah, so port 27960. So you can actually force your server to work on a different port if you wanted to. So if you're working somewhere where you've got a particular port number you want to use, you could force it to use 500 or 20,000 or whatever you wanted. But 27960 is the default port number, which is why I've set that. You can just set one, but I usually set more than one just in case for some reason that's in use, it will use the next one. So that's been saved. There we go. So advanced settings. I'm just going to check it's actually saved it. Port forwarding. Didn't save it. Name URT server. Select device. So that one. 27960. 27963. 960. 27963. Select both of those, set that. Add to list. That's what I didn't do. So that's just where you enter the rule. It's now saved that rule, which is why I can now save it, which didn't happen before. So there we are. So now we've actually got the rule set. So that's it finished for our router firewall. But if you don't set this, then when you run the game, you will be able to see the server if you're running the game on the same computer or laptop as the server. So you'll see it in the list. So you'll be saying, coming on Discord, saying, "Oh, I can see the server, but my friends can't see it." That's because this stops it then being visible to the outside world. So that's one of the common errors that I've seen. So we've installed it, we've set our port numbers, we've got our shortcut set up. The next thing, running the server, this goes into game types and map cycles. So again, this is a bit more advanced than what we need. So that's just how you say remote connection, so we set the password, but we'll come on to that later. So the other thing is the Windows firewall. First time round, when this tries to connect to the internet, we get the Windows Defender firewalls blocked some activity. So we can now allow it to work on internal networks and external networks. If you click cancel, or for some reason the external connection isn't working again, I'll show you where you can set that manually. So we're going to allow access to that. In fact, I'll do that. So that's it. I'll tell you why. It's because it doesn't want to be in the downloads folder. The downloads folder, so if we just quit that again, I remember now, is for if you're running the game. If you're running the server, the map files have to be in the same folder there. So we can just cut that, move it up, and we'll stick that there. Just paste it into this folder. So there we go, so it's added. So that should now find our game. So this is just the log of what's going on. So you can actually run a server on a PC that hasn't got a graphics card that will run the game, because the server isn't actually running the 3D part of the game. It's just hosting a connection in the background. You can run it on an old laptop, which is what I was doing, as long as the laptop's got sufficient power to communicate with other computers. So it's resolving the auth address. Just talk about the jump broadcasting server. Oh, there we go. So it's sending out, so the heartbeat is it's sending out a message every few seconds to the master server to say, yep, I'm here, this is my name, you can find me. So it's found the master server, urbanterra.info, at that address, on that port number. It sent a heartbeat, so it should have registered us with the Urbanterra server now, master 2, in the Quake 3 arena, so we should be registered on all the servers. So we need to leave that running. If I then go and run Urbanterra, so I've actually got this installed in a different directory. You could run it from the same directory, but personally I just feel having a separate installation means that Windows isn't going to be accessing the same files at the same time. Even better still, if it's on a different PC running, you can turn off Windows updates and things like that, and virus scans, so it can just run unaffected. Whereas on your own PC, if you suddenly get messages coming through on Facebook or Discord, it's not going to take away processing power that should be running the server and cause other people to lag. So that means you can, if you've got a separate PC at home, you can shut it down and leave the server running for your friends. You can go off and do other things, run Microsoft Word while your server's still running unaffected. So what I'm going to do here is I'll just Alt-Tab out of that. So because I've run Urbanterra for the first time, it's asking me, so this is my C Urbanterra, so that's where I've got my default game installed. It's asking me to create this exception. If I cancel it, if you've got connection problems, you can go into the start menu, DEFENDER. So we're looking at Windows Defender. So this is where we create the firewall exception. So again, you can do this for the server. Up in the top, you've got allow an app or feature through Windows Defender firewall. So this isn't your router firewall, this is actually Windows firewall. So you might have to do this on the laptop you're running the server on. What you will find down here, so this is all of the different programs and what they can access either privately or publicly. So there's some things, so like my network printer is okay on the private network at home, but it's not allowed to be accessed from outside. So down here we'll have either IO Quake or Quake or Urbanterra. So they've got, so there's my Quake 3 dedicated server. Oops. You can see it's been ticked because I accepted private and public. My Quake 3 game, which I've just run, it's allowed private by default, but not public. So I can actually say I want to manually override this. So I'm going to create a manual setting. Change settings, there we go, so I've got to accept it first. So I'm going to create a manual rule there. So for the dedicated server, if you find that you can't get it onto the internet, if you've got a server running already and other people can't see it, chances are this is what the problem is. You just need to enable public access. So we can save that. I just want to make sure. So this is under Quake 3. Yes, I've not got nothing under Urbanterra. So if I was running a different version of the game file, there might be something on here called Urbanterra or IO Quake. So that's it. We've set our network access. Before I start the game, actually, we're just going to make a note of the address in case we need to connect manually for troubleshooting reasons. So we're going to go back to our router page. We will get our broadband IP address. So this is our external address. So we're just going to make a note of that. Stick in Notepad for now, so we can actually connect to that later. manually if we're not showing up on the server list. So we'll get the game started up. Now, if that's not full screen, you're probably not going to be able to see the bottom of the page. Let's try and go. Let's take it full screen. There we go. So hopefully you can see full screen. We will go into play online. One thing I would say is one thing that causes a lot of people problems is if some of these settings are preset and they're filtering out some of the results. So for example, if the game type isn't set to the game type you're running, it might not show in the list. So we make sure that's set to all to start with. We want to make sure accounts is set to all. So that picks up everything. Private, if private is set on yes, it will only be games that you need a password to access. So again, set that to any. View full should be yes, view empty should be yes. Click clear filters, get new list, refresh, we'll make sure we're on internet. So that should pick up anything. There's nothing filtered out now. You'll find local server is showing up, so we're there. If you find your name is in the list for the local server but not on the internet, it probably means that the ports haven't been set up, or the it could be that the master server list isn't listed correctly, or it could be that you haven't set your firewall settings. So if you find it's here, it's local. The thing you can do to check if it's the master servers list in the config file, we can bring down the terminal and do /connect and then put in the IP address colon 27960, I think was the port name. Oh, I did that wrong. So /connect 7 colon. Okay. So I've got my numlock turned off. Let's try again. Colon 2796. Oh, it's me because I'm looking at the keyboard and not watching what's going on the screen. So if your friends can connect to the server like this, but you're not appearing in the list, then that means that the firewall is set up okay, the exceptions are set up okay, but the master servers are incorrect. So let's just escape out of there again. Main menu. And go back to play online. So if we go to internet, we can sort by server name. And we should find, I forgot what URT, wasn't it? URT training server. Tutorial server, there we go. So there we are, that's it running. If you've got a limited connection in the server config, you can limit the amount of players. So it may be if your upload speed is sort of less than 4 megabit, you might want to set that down to 4 players. You'll usually find that your download speed that they quote might sound really good, so you might have 60 megabit or 80 megabit, but the upload speed will actually be a third or a quarter of that. So if you start getting people with high pings and lagging out, try reducing the amount of people that can access the server. So we'll go to there, as it says on the tin, connect. So that's it, we're in game and we've loaded from the server, so generally that's about it. The other thing which we can do is the remote connection commands. So we'll just try some out. So remember we set the remote connection password, so hit the tilde key to bring down the terminal. And we can, so we need to tell it who we are. So we type in rcon password, and our password we put in was password, if I remember correctly. Oh, I missed an S. Password. Well, password. Try again. There we go. So that's logged us in. So anyone that's working remotely, your friends for example, if you want them to administer the server, you can give them the rcon password. So then we can do things like kick people. All of these instructions are on the Urban Terror user manual website. But say we want to go to map ut4_turnpike. And there we go. So that's how you remotely, so you don't need to go onto your server PC and start loading things. You can now administer it. So your server could be shut away in a cupboard or something, and you can run it remotely. And then we've loaded into Turnpike. Let's just try. If you need to restart the server, you can just load the config, but this is all on. Again, all of these instructions are online, so I won't go through all of them. rcon. Let's see if I can kick myself. Don't know if this will work. Oh yeah, loop back. I can't kick myself. There we go. But if there's another player online, well, that's how you kick them. I think that's it for the basics in game. So been through. Let's exit that. There you go. This is actually a shortcuts in there to change some of them. So you might want to restart map. This is obviously a quicker route, but there's only me in there. But again, you can click the person, kick them, ban them, mute them, give them a warning. It's obviously a quicker way than using the terminal. And you can change things going on in game. So friendly fire, you can change that, for example. So if you look in the top left hand side, actually I can bring the key down, you can see in the list, actually if I just do the rcon again, options, so friendly fire on, if you look at the top left hand side, you'll see server g_friendly fire. So you can do that in the terminal as well, using all of the instructions that are on. Quit the server. The Urban Terror website. So you've got the remote control commands. So there we've got remote kick, status, client kick. So these are all the things that they've got some shortcut buttons for, but you can. Where's my CVARs there? So load all these up manually using the terminal if you wish. And that would be it. Job done. Just stop the video there and get in case it crashes again. Basically, to recap, you download the game, install the game, put any maps you want in the normal map file. We edit the server config, mainly just to give it a server name, and then set up a password if you want a remote com password. That's all you need to do. So you've got server config, set your map cycle for the maps you want to circle through. Of course, it wouldn't find the one I was typing because I used a different name. And then in your shortcut, we make sure we've got to execute the server config. So that's those things. We've set our firewall up to allow connections under advanced port forwarding. There, so we've set our ports up, and then finally we set up under Windows Defender, we set our exceptions down under Q, Quake 3 dedicated, and that's it. Job done. We're up and running. See you in the next video.